Well, look who's here, Samantha sneered, her voice slicing through the elevator's hum. Think you belong on the 10th floor? This isn't some diversity handout. Lily's laugh cut like glass. Tech cores for the best, not... You know, she taunted, her smirk venomous. Isabella Grant, a 28-year-old African-American woman, stood tall, her navy blazer sharp, her curls a crown of resilience. Her dark eyes burned with intellect as she faced her first day at TechCore, portfolio in hand, heart electric with ambition. But as the elevator doors closed, Samantha shoved her out. Get out! This isn't for you, she snapped. Alone in the lobby, humiliation stung, yet Isabella's resolve flared brighter. Can she turn this insult into triumph? Will prejudice break her or forge a legend? Subscribe for our latest stories, share where you're watching from, and join us to uncover how Isabella's courage reshapes her world. The glass doors of TechCore's San Francisco headquarters gleamed under the morning sun, reflecting Isabella Grant's determined silhouette as she stepped into the lobby. At 28, this African-American woman carried an air of quiet confidence, her tailored navy blazer hugging her frame, her natural curls framing her face like a crown of resilience. Her dark eyes, sharp with intellect, scanned the bustling atrium. Programmers in hoodies, executives in crisp suits, the hum of ambition in the air. Today was her first day as a probationary employee, a chance to prove herself in the cutthroat world of tech. She clutched her leather portfolio, her heart steady but electric with anticipation. This was her moment. Isabella pressed the elevator button, and the polished steel doors slid open with a soft ding. She stepped inside, the confined space smelling faintly of metal and cologne. Alone, she pressed the button for the 10th floor, where the innovation team awaited. Her reflection stared back from the mirrored walls, a woman who had fought through skepticism and microaggressions to stand here. She straightened her posture, whispering, "You've got this." The doors began to close, a sliver of the lobby disappearing, when two figures slipped through at the last second. Samantha Reed and Lily Harper, both European-American and probationary hires like Isabella, filled the elevator with their presence. Samantha, her blonde hair pulled into a severe bun, radiated a calculated sharpness. Lily, clutching a designer purse, had a smirk that curled like a warning. Their eyes landed on Isabella, not with curiosity, but with a cold, appraising disdain. The air thickened, the hum of the elevator cables suddenly deafening in the silence. Isabella's fingers tightened around her portfolio, sensing the shift. Samantha broke the quiet, her voice slicing through the space. "Well, look who's here," she said, her tone dripping with mockery. "Think you belong on the 10th floor? This isn't some diversity handout." Lily snickered, her laugh sharp as glass. "Yeah, tech core's for the best, not... well, you know." She tilted her head, her eyes raking over Isabella's blazer as if it were an offense. Isabella's jaw clenched, the sting of their words familiar yet raw. She'd faced this before. Classmates who doubted her, recruiters who questioned her credentials. But here on her first day, it cut deeper. "You're in over your head," Samantha continued, stepping closer, her perfume cloying in the cramped space. "They'll see through you in a week. Why don't you save us all the trouble and quit now?" Isabella's heart pounded, but she kept her gaze forward, her reflection unwavering. She remembered her father's voice, Richard Grant, TechCore's chairman, echoing in her mind. "You're stronger than their words, Isabella." She wanted to speak, to fire back, but before she could, Samantha's hand shot out, pushing her shoulder with deliberate force. "Get out," Samantha snapped. "This elevator's not for you. Wait for the next one." The shove caught Isabella off guard, her heel catching on the floor as she stumbled backward. Lily laughed, a cruel sound that echoed as Samantha pressed the door close button. Isabella's hand reached out instinctively, but the door slammed shut, the last glimpse of Samantha's smirk burning into her vision. She stood alone in the lobby, the eyes of strangers, interns, security guards drilling into her. Humiliation washed over her, hot and heavy, her cheeks flushing as she fought the urge to shrink. But Isabella Grant didn't shrink. She straightened, her spine steel, her eyes blazing with a fire that refused to be snuffed out. The lobby's chatter faded as she pressed the elevator button again, her finger steady. The second elevator arrived, empty, and she stepped inside, the doors closing with a whisper. Alone now, she let out a slow breath, her reflection meeting her gaze once more. The pain of Samantha and Lily's words lingered, a bruise on her pride, but it fueled her resolve. They thought they could break her, push her out before she'd even begun. They were wrong. As the elevator ascended, Isabella's mind sharpened. This wasn't just about surviving her first day, it was about claiming her place. The 10th floor awaited, a battleground where she'd prove her worth, not with words but with brilliance. The ding of the elevator signaled her arrival. She stepped out, her heels clicking with purpose. The wound of the morning still fresh but powerless to stop her. Today they'd pushed her out. Tomorrow they'd wish they hadn't. The open plan office of TechCore's innovation team buzzed with the clatter of keyboards and the low hum of collaboration. But for Isabella Grant, it was a battlefield. The sting of her first day's humiliation in the elevator lingered like a shadow. Yet she sat at her desk, her screen glowing with lines of code that danced under her deft fingers. Her natural curls were pulled back, her blazer draped over her chair, sleeves rolled up as if to signal she was ready for war. The wound from Samantha and Lily's cruelty hadn't faded, but Isabella channeled it into her work, determined to let her brilliance speak louder than their venom. Her first week had been a masterclass in resilience. Assigned to a project optimizing AI-driven data pipelines, Isabella dove in with a precision that startled her teammates. Her solutions were elegant, her debugging relentless, her suggestions in meetings sharp yet inclusive. During a brainstorming session, she proposed a neural network tweak that could cut processing times by 20%. Her voice steady despite the skeptical glances. The team lead, a grizzled coder named Tom, nodded slowly, scribbling her idea on the whiteboard. "That's, promising," he said, his tone betraying surprise. Isabella's chest tightened with pride, but she kept her expression neutral, aware of the eyes watching her, some curious, others wary. Samantha and Lily, however, were neither. From their desks across the room, they observed Isabella's rise with a resentment that festered like a wound. Their laughter, once confined to the elevator, now spilled into the break room, where they spun a web of lies. Over coffee, Samantha leaned toward a cluster of colleagues, her voice loud enough to carry. "You know Isabella's only here because of the diversity push, right? I heard she faked her portfolio to get in." Lily, stirring her latte, chimed in with a smirk. "Yeah, she's all flash, no substance. Bet she's copying someone else's code." The words slithered through the team, planting seeds of doubt. By midweek, Isabella noticed the shift. Co-workers who once smiled now hesitated, their greetings clipped, their questions laced with suspicion. The sabotage grew bolder. During a group presentation, Samantha accidentally omitted Isabella's slides, leaving her to explain her work off the cuff. Isabella rose to the challenge, her eloquence silencing the room, but the slight burned. At lunch, Lily invited the team to a nearby cafe, pointedly excluding Isabella, who ate alone at her desk, her sandwich untouched as she pored over documentation. Their tactics were petty but relentless, designed to chip away at her confidence. Yet Isabella refused to crack. Each night she stayed late, her desk lamp a solitary beacon in the darkened office, refining algorithms until they gleamed. Her father's words echoed, "You're stronger than their words." She clung to them, her resolve a shield against the growing isolation. The tension peaked on Friday during a code review. Isabella submitted a module that streamlined data queries, a piece of work she'd spent hours perfecting. As Tom projected her code onto the screen, Samantha leaned back, arms crossed. "Looks familiar," she said, her tone venomous. "Did you pull this from an open-source repo? I've seen it somewhere." The room stilled, eyes darting to Isabella. Lily piled on, her voice syrupy with false concern. "No shame in borrowing, Isabella, but you should credit the source." The accusation hung heavy, a blade aimed at her integrity. Isabella's pulse raced, her fingers curling into fists beneath the table. She could feel the team's gaze, some doubtful, others merely curious, waiting for her to falter. She didn't. "That code is mine," Isabella said, her voice calm but unyielding, like steel wrapped in velvet. She opened her laptop, pulling up her development logs. timestamps, drafts, every keystroke meticulously documented. I built it from scratch. You're welcome to check the commit history. The room grew quieter still as she walked them through her process, her logic impeccable, her confidence unshaken. Tom, eyebrows raised, nodded. Solid work, Grant. Let's move on. Samantha's face tightened, her smirk replaced by a scowl, while Lily fidgeted, her bravado crumbling. Isabella had won this round, but the victory was bittersweet. She saw the doubt lingering in some colleagues' eyes, the poison of rumors taking root. As the meeting ended, Isabella returned to her desk, her heart a storm of defiance and hurt. The office emptied, but she stayed, her screen's glow casting shadows across her face. She wasn't just fighting for a job, she was fighting for her place in a world that too often tried to push her out. Samantha and Lily thought they could break her with whispers and slights, but they'd underestimated her. Isabella saved her work, her fingers steady, her resolve ironclad. They'd tried to dim her light. They'd only made it burn brighter. The conference room was a pressure cooker, its long table crowded with the innovation team, their laptops open, coffee cups scattered like battle relics. Isabella Grant sat near the end, her posture rigid, her dark eyes locked on the projector screen. The weight of weeks of sabotage, Samantha and Lily's whispered lies, stolen ideas, and calculated slights, pressed against her chest, but she refused to let it show. Her latest project, a data optimization algorithm, was being presented today, a chance to cement her value. Yet the air crackled with tension, as if the room itself sensed the storm brewing. Tom, the team lead, clicked through slides, his gravelly voice outlining the project's progress. Isabella's work anchored the presentation, her code the backbone of their success. She'd poured nights into it, her desk lamp burning long after others left, each line a testament to her skill. As Tom praised the algorithm's efficiency, a flicker of pride warmed her. But then Samantha leaned forward, her blonde bun glinting under the fluorescent lights, her smile sharp as a blade. "Hold on, Tom," she said, her voice cutting through the room. "I'm not sure we're giving credit where it's due. Isabella's section, it's incomplete. Critical queries are missing." The accusation landed like a grenade, the room falling silent. Eyes swiveled to Isabella, some curious, others laced with the doubt Samantha and Lily had sown. Isabella's heart lurched, her fingers tightening around her pen. She knew her work was flawless. She triple-checked every query, tested every edge case. This wasn't a mistake, it was a trap. Lily, sitting beside Samantha, adopted a look of feigned concern, her voice syrupy. "It's okay to miss things, Isabella, but this could tank the project. We need reliability." The words were a velvet glove over a fist, designed to wound. Isabella's pulse thundered, but she forced her expression to remain calm, her voice steady as granite. "My section is complete," she said, meeting Samantha's gaze. "I submitted the full data set last night. If something's missing, it's not from my end." She opened her laptop, pulling up her submission logs, ready to prove her case. Tom frowned, glancing between them. "Let's check the repository," he said, projecting the shared drive. The file appeared, but to Isabella's horror, key queries were gone, erased as if they'd never existed. A murmur rippled through the team, skepticism thickening the air. Samantha's smirk was subtle, almost invisible, but Isabella caught it. This was no accident. They'd tampered with her work, gambling on her silence or shame. But Isabella didn't crumble. She clicked into her backup, her fingers moving with surgical precision. "Here's my original submission," she said, projecting her screen. The missing queries glowed in stark contrast, their timestamps predating the team's review. "I sent this to the group at 8:47 p.m. Check the email thread." Tom's brow furrowed as he scrolled, confirming her claim. The room shifted, suspicion turning toward Samantha, whose face tightened, her composure fraying. "Must have been an oversight," Samantha muttered, her voice brittle. Lily fidgeted, her earlier confidence evaporating. Tom nodded curtly. "We'll sort this out later. Good catch, Grant." The meeting moved on, but the damage lingered. Colleagues who'd hesitated before now cast wary glances, their trust in Isabella fractured by the spectacle. She'd won the moment, but the victory was hollow. The accusation, though disproved, had painted her as someone who needed defending, not someone who belonged. As the team filed out, Isabella stayed behind, her laptop still open, her hands trembling slightly. The room's silence was heavy, broken only by the hum of the projector cooling down. She replayed Samantha's words, Lily's false sympathy, and the team's doubtful stares. It wasn't just about the project, it was about her right to exist here, to be seen as equal. The weight of their campaign against her, from elevator insults to stolen credit, pressed harder. She closed her eyes, her father's voice cutting through the noise. "You're stronger than their words." But strength didn't erase the hurt, the isolation that clung like a damp cloth. That evening, alone at her desk, Isabella's screen cast a pale glow across her face. She opened the team's chat, catching a fragment of a message before it vanished. Samantha to Lily, something about the plan and getting her out. Her breath caught, suspicion hardening into certainty. This wasn't just envy, it was a campaign to destroy her. She saved a screenshot, her fingers steady now, her resolve crystallizing. Samantha and Lily thought they could break her with lies and sabotage. They were wrong. Isabella wasn't just fighting for her job, she was fighting for her truth, and she'd be ready when their next move came. The boardroom was a crucible, its air thick with the weight of authority and judgment. Isabella Grant sat at the polished mahogany table, her posture unyielding, her dark eyes fixed on the faces before her. The summons from HR had come abruptly, an email that felt like a blade slipped between her ribs. Weeks of enduring Samantha and Lily's sabotage, the elevator shove, the stolen ideas, the tampered code, had steeled her, but nothing prepared her for this moment. Her blazer felt like armor, yet her heart thudded, a drumbeat of dread and defiance. The room's silence was suffocating, broken only by the faint tick of a wall clock. Margaret Chen, the COO, sat at the head, her expression carved from stone. Flanking her were three executives, their suits crisp, their gazes piercing. Samantha and Lily perched in the corner, their faces masks of smug certainty, eyes glinting with the thrill of a trap sprung. Chen's voice cut through the tension, each word a hammer strike. "Ms. Grant, you've been accused of stealing proprietary data and leaking it to next-gen solutions. This is a grave breach of trust and policy." The words landed like a physical blow, stealing Isabella's breath. Data theft? Espionage? The accusations were absurd, yet the weight of them pressed her into her chair. Chen slid a tablet across the table, its screen displaying a damning report. Encrypted files traced to your login were transferred to an external server linked to NextGen. Timestamps align with your access patterns. Isabella's mind reeled, her fingers curling into fists beneath the table. She knew her work, meticulous, ethical, and beyond reproach. This was no mistake. It was a meticulously crafted lie. Samantha's lips twitched, a predator savoring the kill, while Lily's feigned concern barely masked her glee. The executive's eyes bored into Isabella, waiting for her to crack, to confess, to crumble. She didn't. "I haven't stolen anything," Isabella said, her voice steady, a low fire burning through each syllable. "I've given this company my best, my time, my ideas, my integrity. If you'll allow me, I can prove it." Her words hung in the air, a challenge to the room's judgment. Chen's brow arched, skepticism flickering, but she nodded. "Proceed." Isabella's pulse surged, her hands steady as she opened her laptop, its glow a beacon in the storm. She'd faced their lies before. Samantha's accusations in meetings, Lily's whispers in the break room. But this was different. This was a career ender, a betrayal meant to erase her. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, accessing the company's security logs with a clearance code she'd never revealed. The room watched, the executives leaning forward, Samantha's smirk faltering. Isabella's voice was calm but unyielding as she narrated her findings. The files were uploaded from a shared terminal in the lab, one I rarely use. "Look at the login records." She projected the logs, timestamps glowing like evidence in a courtroom. "These sessions occurred at 2 a.m. and when I was home. Cross-reference the IP addresses." The data was irrefutable, yet the accusation's shadow lingered, heavy as iron. Samantha shifted, her voice sharp. "That doesn't prove anything. You could have used a VPN, covered your tracks. The desperation in her tone was a crack in her facade, and Isabella seized it. Then explain the metadata, she countered, pulling up file properties. The uploads were tagged with user IDs tied to your accounts, not mine. Lily's face paled, her hands twisting in her lap. The executives exchanged glances, the room's power shifting like sand underfoot. Isabella's heart pounded, not with fear but with the clarity of truth. She was exposing their lie piece by piece, and they knew it. Chen's voice cut in, cold and precise. These are serious claims, Ms. Grant. If you're mistaken— I'm not, Isabella interrupted, her gaze locking with Chen's. Check the server logs yourself. The evidence is there. The room stilled, the clocks ticking deafening. Samantha's eyes darted to Lily, a silent plea. But Lily was frozen, her bravado shattered. The executives murmured, one scribbling notes, another typing on a tablet. Isabella sat back, her breathing steady, her resolve a fortress. She'd turned their weapon against them, but the battle wasn't won. The accusation had branded her, and the room's doubt still lingered, a poison slow to fade. As the meeting paused, Chen was studying the logs, and Isabella's mind raced. This wasn't just about clearing her name. It was about dismantling a campaign to destroy her. Samantha and Lily had underestimated her, thinking their lies would bury her. They were wrong. She'd fought too hard, endured too much to let them win. The truth was her shield, and she'd wield it like a sword. Whatever came next, Isabella was ready, her fire unquenched, her purpose clear. The boardroom crackled with tension, a live wire ready to spark. Isabella Grant sat at the center of the storm, her laptop screen casting a stark glow across her resolute face. The accusation of data theft, a vicious lie spun by Samantha and Lily, hung like a guillotine, threatening to sever her career. Yet Isabella's hands were steady, her dark eyes blazing with unyielding determination. She'd already exposed the flaws in their evidence, tracing the stolen files to a shared terminal. But the room's doubt lingered, a heavy fog. Now she was ready to shatter their deception and reclaim her truth. Margaret Chen, the COO, leaned forward, her gaze piercing. You've made bold claims, Ms. Grant. The evidence must be conclusive. Isabella nodded, her voice calm but edged with steel. It is. Her fingers danced across the keyboard, pulling up deeper security logs with a clearance code that made the executives shift in their seats. She'd kept this access hidden, a safeguard from her father's teachings, never meant to be used, until now. The screen projected a timeline of logins, each entry a nail in the coffin of Samantha and Lily's scheme. Look here, Isabella said, her tone measured, commanding the room's attention. The uploads occurred at 2:17 a.m., tagged with user IDs not linked to my account. She zoomed in, revealing two familiar names, Samantha Reed and Lily Harper. A murmur rippled through the executives, their pens pausing. Samantha's face drained of color, her earlier smirk replaced by a twitch of panic. Lily's hands twisted in her lap, her feigned innocence unraveling. Isabella pressed on, relentless. These IDs accessed encrypted channels to next-gen solutions. The metadata shows emails sent from the same terminal, drafted in their names. Samantha lurched forward, her voice shrill. That's fabricated. She's manipulating the logs. The desperation in her tone was a crack in her armor, and Isabella seized it. Then explain this, she countered, pulling up a packet capture from the company's firewall. The screen displayed a trail of communications, encrypted messages to NextGen, time-stamped and signed with Samantha's digital signature. Lily gasped, a small, involuntary sound that echoed in the silence. The executives' faces hardened, their skepticism shifting toward the true culprits. Isabella's heart pounded, not with fear, but with the thrill of justice. She'd spent weeks enduring their lies. The elevator shove, the stolen credit, the tampered code, each wound fueling her resolve. Now she stood on the precipice of victory. The server logs don't lie, she said, her gaze locking with Chen's. I've provided raw data, untouched. You can verify it with the IT team. Chen's eyes narrowed, but she nodded, typing a command into her tablet. The room held its breath, the weight of truth pressing against the walls. Then came the moment that changed everything. Isabella took a breath, her voice steady but resonant, like a bell tolling. There's something else you should know. I joined this company as a probationary employee to prove myself, not to lean on privilege. But I'm Isabella Grant, daughter of Richard Grant, your chairman. The words detonated, a shock wave that silenced the room. The executives froze, pens dropping, eyes wide. Samantha's jaw slackened, her bravado crumbling into disbelief. Lily's hands flew to her mouth, as if to trap a scream. Even Chen blinked, her composure faltering for the first time. I didn't want my father's name to define me, Isabella continued, her voice unwavering. I wanted my work to speak for itself, but I won't let lies destroy what I've built. The room was a tableau of stunned faces, the revelation rewriting their assumptions. Richard Grant, silent in the back, watched his daughter with a quiet pride that needed no words. Isabella's disclosure wasn't a plea for favor. It was a declaration of her right to be here, earned through skill and sacrifice. Chen cleared her throat, regaining control. These are extraordinary claims, Ms. Grant. We'll need to authenticate the logs. But her tone carried a new respect, the balance of power shifting. Samantha stammered. This is a setup. She's using her father's influence. The accusation was feeble, a last gasp from a sinking ship. Lily remained silent, her eyes darting like a trapped animal's. The executives ignored them, their focus on Isabella's evidence, their murmurs growing urgent. Isabella sat back, her breathing steady, her fire unquenched. She'd exposed their betrayal, laid bare their deceit. But the fight wasn't over. The room's doubt was fading, replaced by a dawning recognition of her strength. Samantha and Lily had thought they could bury her with lies, erase her with a single accusation. They were wrong. Isabella had turned their trap into her triumph, and the truth, sharp as a blade, was hers to wield. Whatever came next, she was ready. The boardroom was a crucible of reckoning, its air electric with the aftershock of Isabella Grant's revelations. Her laptop screen still glowed with the damning evidence, logs, emails, and metadata that exposed Samantha and Lily's betrayal. The accusation of data theft, meant to destroy her, had been turned against them, and now the room pulsed with the weight of truth. Isabella sat tall, her dark eyes steady, her resolve a beacon in the storm. She'd unveiled not only their deceit, but also her identity as Richard Grant's daughter, a bombshell that left the executives reeling and her accusers defenseless. The moment of judgment had arrived. Margaret Chen, the COO, rose from her chair, her voice a blade slicing through the tension. Ms. Reed, Ms. Harper, the evidence is irrefutable. You've not only violated company policy, but committed a criminal act. Her words were measured, but her eyes burned with authority. Samantha's face crumpled, her earlier bravado replaced by a flush of panic. This is a mistake, she cried, her voice cracking. She's framing us. Her father's pulling strings. The accusation was desperate, a drowning woman clutching at straws. Lily, pale and trembling, said nothing. Her hands knotted in her lap, her gaze fixed on the floor as if it could swallow her whole. Isabella's heart thrummed, not with triumph, but with the clarity of justice. She'd endured weeks of their venom. The elevator shove, the stolen ideas, the tampered code, each wound a testament to their intent to erase her. Now their lies lay in ruins. She leaned forward, her voice calm but piercing. One final piece of evidence, she said, clicking her laptop. A recorded call intercepted by the company's cybersecurity team filled the room. Samantha's voice, unmistakable, negotiated with a next-gen contact, promising data for a payout. Lily's hesitant agreement followed, sealing their guilt. The executives gasped, their murmurs rising like a tide. Chen raised a hand, silencing the room. Enough! She turned to the security guards at the door, her tone final. Escort Ms. Reed and Ms. Harper out. They're terminated, effective immediately. Legal will handle the rest. Samantha lurched to her feet, her chair scraping loudly. You can't do this! I'll sue! This is discrimination! Her voice was a shriek, but the guards moved swiftly, one taking her arm. Lily stood shakily, her eyes darting to Isabella, not with defiance, but with a flicker of regret. They were let out, Samantha's protests echoing until the door clicked shut, leaving a heavy silence. The executives turned to Isabella, their faces a mix of awe and reassessment. Chen's gaze softened, though her voice remained firm. Ms. Grant, your evidence is compelling. We'll verify it, but your actions today speak to your integrity. Isabella nodded, her throat tight. She'd fought not just for her name, but for the company's honor, a legacy her father had built. Richard Grant, silent until now, stepped forward from the back. His presence was a quiet force, his eyes meeting hers with unspoken pride. You didn't need my name to do this, he said, his voice low but resonant. You never did. Isabella's chest swelled, a wave of relief breaking through her resolve. She'd face their lies alone, armed only with truth and tenacity. The elevator humiliation, the whispers, the false accusations, they'd all led to this moment, where justice wasn't just served, but carved into the room's memory. She allowed herself a small smile, her father's words grounding her. I know, Dad, she said softly, but I'm here to protect what we stand for. The executives nodded, some scribbling notes, others exchanging glances that acknowledged her strength. Chen cleared her throat, addressing the room. This matter is closed for now. We'll conduct a full investigation into NextGen's involvement and ensure no further breaches. She turned to Isabella, a rare warmth in her eyes. Thank you, Ms. Grant, for your diligence. You've done this company a service. The words were a balm, soothing the scars of weeks of doubt. Isabella closed her laptop, her hands steady, her fire unquenched. She dismantled their trap, exposed their betrayal, and stood taller for it. As the executives began to file out, Isabella remained seated, her mind replaying the battle. Samantha and Lily had thought they could break her, that their lies would bury her beneath the weight of suspicion. They'd underestimated her resilience, her intellect, and her unyielding commitment to truth. The room emptied, leaving only her and her father, his presence a quiet anchor. She'd won this fight, but it was more than a personal victory. It was a stand for fairness, for integrity, for her right to belong. The war wasn't over, but Isabella was ready, her truth a sword, her justice a shield. The air in the innovation team's office hummed with a new energy, as if the walls themselves had absorbed the seismic shift of Isabella Grant's triumph. Weeks had passed since the boardroom showdown, where she dismantled Samantha and Lily's lies with surgical precision, exposing their betrayal and securing her place. The sting of their accusations, elevator insults, stolen credit, fabricated theft, still lingered, but Isabella had transformed pain into power. Now she stood at a podium in a meeting room, her dark eyes alight, presenting her vision for a new AI division. Her blazer was sharp, her curls a defiant crown, her voice a steady current that commanded the room. Her promotion to lead the AI division had been swift, a testament to her brilliance and resilience. The team, once skeptical under the weight of rumors, now gathered around her, their laptops open, their faces eager. Tom, the grizzled team lead, sat in the front, his usual frown replaced by a nod of respect. Isabella's slides glowed on the screen, outlining a machine learning framework that could revolutionize data processing. This isn't just about efficiency, she said, her tone vibrant with purpose. It's about building systems that adapt, learn, and serve everyone equitably. The room leaned in, captivated, her words igniting a spark of possibility. But Isabella's ascent wasn't just about code or titles. It was about rewriting the culture that had tried to break her. She'd seen the cost of exclusion, felt the chill of isolation, and vowed no one else would endure it. During a lunch break, she unveiled a mentorship program for underrepresented employees, her voice steady as she addressed the team. We rise together, she said, her gaze sweeping the room. This program ensures everyone has a voice, a chance to shine. A young coder, hesitant until now, raised her hand, her question trembling but bold. Isabella answered with warmth, and the room exhaled, a barrier crumbling. Her influence rippled beyond the team. In meetings, colleagues who once averted their eyes now sought her input, their questions laced with admiration. A senior engineer, gruff but fair, pulled her aside after a demo. "You're changing things, Grant," he said, his voice low. "Keep it up." Isabella's chest tightened, not with pride but with the weight of responsibility. She wasn't just proving herself. She was carving a path for others, dismantling the prejudices that had fueled Samantha and Lily's campaign. Each late night, each refined algorithm, each mentored colleague was a brick in a new foundation. Yet the ghosts of her ordeal lingered. In quiet moments, Isabella replayed the elevator shove, the whispered lies, the boardroom's suffocating doubt. They hadn't just attacked her work. They'd attacked her right to exist here. Now as she led, she channeled that pain into purpose. During a team huddle, she noticed a junior analyst, quiet and overlooked, whose ideas were dismissed. She called on him, her voice firm. "Share your approach, Marcus. We need to hear it." His eyes widened, then steadied, his proposal sparking a lively debate. The team's dynamics shifted, inclusion becoming not a slogan, but a practice. Her father's presence, though subtle, anchored her. Richard Grant, who'd watched her boardroom victory in silence, sent her a single email. "You're building something greater than I ever could." Isabella read it alone at her desk, her throat tight. She wasn't just his daughter. She was a leader in her own right, her vision reshaping the company's future. Her AI division's early tests yielded breakthroughs, cutting processing times and boosting accuracy. The team's morale soared. Their trust in her was absolute, a stark contrast to the doubt she'd once faced. The climax came at a company-wide briefing, where Isabella presented her division's progress. The room was packed, executives and coders alike hanging on her words. Her slides were crisp, her delivery magnetic, weaving technical precision with a call for unity. "Innovation thrives when everyone's at the table," she said, her voice resonating. "We're not just coding systems, we're coding fairness." The applause was thunderous, Tom clapping first, the team following. Richard in the front row met her gaze, his nod a silent vow of faith. Isabella stood tall, the weight of her journey, humiliation, sabotage, redemption, fueling her fire. As the briefing ended, Isabella lingered, watching her team mingle, their laughter free of the old tensions. She'd turned their battlefield into a beacon, their doubt into devotion. Samantha and Lily's names were forgotten, their betrayal a footnote to her rise. Isabella had fought for her place, not with anger but with excellence, not for herself but for those who'd follow. Her heart swelled, not with victory's thrill, but with the quiet certainty that she'd built something enduring. The path ahead was hers to shape, and she was ready. The auditorium thrummed with anticipation, a sea of faces, coders, executives, and analysts, gathered for TechCore's annual conference. Isabella Grant stood at the podium, her presence a quiet storm, her dark eyes alight with purpose. Her blazer hugged her frame, her curls a defiant crown, but it was her voice that held the room captive, resonant and unwavering. Months had passed since she'd dismantled Samantha and Lily's lies, turned their accusations of theft into a mirror of their guilt, and claimed her place as a leader. Now she was here to unveil a groundbreaking AI algorithm, but more than that, to cement a legacy forged in fire. The screen behind her glowed with data visualizations, each curve a testament to her division's breakthroughs. "This algorithm doesn't just process data," Isabella said, her tone weaving passion with precision. "It learns, adapts, and ensures fairness in every output." The audience leaned forward, captivated, as she walked them through its impact. Faster analytics, equitable decision-making, a tool for progress. But her words carried a deeper weight, echoing the battles she'd fought, the elevator shove, the stolen ideas, the boardroom ambush. Each scar had shaped this moment, her triumph not just personal, but universal. She paused, her gaze sweeping the room, connecting with every eye. "Success isn't about where you start or what others say about you," she said, her voice steady, a blade cutting through doubt. "It's about what you build and who you lift along the way." The words landed like a spark, igniting murmurs of agreement. Tom, the grizzled team lead, nodded from the front row, his respect hard-earned. A junior coder, once silenced, clapped fiercely, her face alight with inspiration. Isabella's mentorship program had given her a voice, just as it had for dozens of others, transforming the company's culture into one of inclusion. The ghosts of her ordeal, Samantha and Lily's venom, the whispers that branded her an outsider, hovered at the edges of her mind. They'd sought to erase her, to reduce her to a stereotype, but their names were now dust, their betrayal a fading echo. Isabella had turned their malice into fuel, her AI division a beacon of innovation, her leadership a shield for those who'd been overlooked. During a Q&A, a young analyst asked how she'd overcome bias. Isabella's smile was soft but fierce. "You don't overcome it by shouting back," she said. "You do it by being undeniable, by letting your work roar." The room erupted in applause, a tidal wave of affirmation. Richard Grant, her father, sat in the front, his eyes glistening with quiet pride. He'd built this company, but Isabella was redefining it, her vision stretching beyond profit to purpose. She'd launched initiatives to mentor underrepresented talent, ensuring no one faced the isolation she'd endured. Her team, once fractured by doubt, now thrived, their projects setting industry standards. The applause grew louder, a standing ovation that shook the air, and Isabella stood tall, her heart swelling with a truth she'd earned. She belonged here, not despite her struggles, but because of them. As she stepped off the podium, colleagues swarmed her, their praise genuine, their questions eager. A senior executive, once skeptical, gripped her hand. "You're the future of this place, Grant," he said, his voice gruff but warm. Isabella nodded, her throat tight, not with pride but with the weight of what she'd built. She'd fought for more than a title. She'd fought for a world where talent, not prejudice, defined worth. The memory of Samantha and Lily's smug faces in the boardroom, their lies unraveling, was a distant shadow. They'd gambled on her silence and lost, their careers in ruins while Isabella's star burned bright. Richard approached, his presence a steady anchor. "You've done more than I ever dreamed," he said, his voice low, meant only for her. Isabella's eyes met his, a silent vow passing between them. "I'm just getting started," she replied, her smile a spark of defiance. The crowd parted as she moved through, their respect a tangible force. She'd turned a battlefield into a beacon, her journey a lesson etched in every heart. Strength wasn't in status or vengeance, but in integrity, in lifting others as you climb. As the conference wound down, Isabella lingered, watching her team laugh and plan, their unity a testament to her impact. She'd faced the worst humiliation, sabotage, and doubt, and emerged not just victorious, but transformative. The applause still echoed in her mind, a reminder of what she'd achieved. Samantha and Lily were forgotten, their malice no match for her resilience. Isabella had rewritten the rules, proving that true power lay in courage and truth. She stood ready, not for the next fight, but for the next dream, her fire unquenched, her legacy just beginning. As Isabella Grant's journey fades from the stage, her story lingers, a testament to resilience, integrity, and the power of rising above prejudice. We hope her triumph inspires you, just as it has us. Share your thoughts in the comments. What moved you? What challenged you? What will you carry forward? Thank you for joining us in this tale of courage and justice. Until we meet again for the next story, keep shining your light. See you soon.